Look, okay, she sent a match, couple day affair with your wife. You think she leaving with my hoodie? Told her give it back. Stop off at the hometown, looking like I'm still the man. I see some epitomes of what it's like to finish last. I wonder what it's like to drop and ain't feeling that. Been through a lot, but I ain't never had to deal with that.
In this video, I'm going to show you 5 of my favorite transitions in Adobe Premiere Pro that you can use to spice up your edits. Hey, what's going on? My name is Peter Sarellas. I'm a videographer and editor from Toronto, Canada. I specialize in sports videography. And in this video, I'm showing you 5 of my favorite transitions in Adobe Premiere Pro so that you can use them in your edits and add a little spice to your videos. Alright, so the first transition that we're going to do is kind of like a 2-for-1. We're going to be talking about a speed ramp transition, which a lot of you are probably already very familiar with, as well as like a slow-mo ramp, which is like kind of the opposite, but I think I like using the slow-mo ramp even more than I like using a speed ramp. But we're going to get into it and I'll show you how to do both. So first, let's look at the actual clips that we're using for this transition. Let's make this bigger so you guys can see it. And we're gonna start by doing the speed ramp. I'll go through this pretty quickly because again, I know you're pretty familiar with it probably. So to access speed properties of a clip that you have in your timeline in Premiere, you have to right click it and then you go show clip keyframes, time remaining speed in the menu. And you click on that and that will allow you to then manipulate the speed of a clip. You can see you can like drag it up and down and the percentage of the speed changes. So over 100% is faster than regular speed and below 100% is slower than regular speed. So we want to do no, you know what? I said we were going to do the speed ramp, but let's do the slow-mo ramp first because I'm more excited about it and I think this clip works well for it. So we have this clip right here of this player taking a shot and it goes in. I think it'd be really cool to slow this clip down right here so you can really see like the flick of the net like that as the ball goes in. So let's hold Command or Control, depending on if you're Mac or PC, and then you left click and you get this little arrow dragging thing. I don't know what it's called. And you can just drag this out to make a ramp. And on this side of the ramp, you can drag the clip to below 100%, which is gonna make it slower than real life. This clip was filmed at 120 frames per second, which means we can slow it down to 20% speed because 120 is 5 times bigger than 24, and we're working with a 24 frame per second timeline. If that was confusing to you, I have a whole video of frame rates and you can go check it out right here. It'll make a lot more sense. But anyways, we've got this clip slowed down to 20% speed. And you can see that we have the slow motion, but it maybe doesn't hold for as long as I would like. So let's make that slow down a little faster. That's better. I'll maybe even give that a couple more frames to breathe. And now we want to slow down the start of the next clip as well, because we don't want it to just quickly go from slow motion to fast motion again. It's nicer if it can kind of stay slow and then gradually ramp up. So we're going to do exactly what we just did. Right click, show clip keyframes, time remaining speed, left click, and then we're going to hold Command or Control, left click to get our little arrow thing. We'll drag it out to make a ramp. And on this side of the ramp, the side that is close to the end of the last clip, we're going to slow the clip down to 20% speed, just like that. And you can see that a lot of this clip is slowed down now. We probably made this ramp too big. So we're just going to grab and drag here. We're going to adjust. And this is from 2 seconds and 5 frames all the way until 2 seconds and 13 frames. Maybe we want it to be slower for a little bit longer than a few frames. But yeah, let's see what this looks like. That's pretty good. So now we have this clip. The player takes his shot, goes in, slows down into a celebration, and then cuts to the next shot of the celebration. But I think that we can make this even better by speed ramping into that switch from the second shot to the third shot, where we go from the back angle of the celebration to the front angle of the celebration. So let's do exactly what we just did. We're just going to hold Command and click, drag this out, and lift it up to make it faster. Let's speed this up to like 150% speed, which is 1.5 times faster than real life. And then we're going to extend this clip so that it's faster for a little longer. So now you can see it played through and it kind of speeds up right at the end. This clip, he's already like zooming in with the camera, so it looks like a speed ramp already, just because the camera is moving so quickly. As this videographer zooms in from the wide shot to the tight shot, the clip already kind of speed ramps, so the effect is already looking pretty good. But if we do the same thing we just did, drag this out like we did last time, and then we're going to speed this clip up to 150%. And maybe we'll make the speed last a little longer. Now it looks a little better in my opinion. And when we have that all done, this is what our clip looks like with our slow-mo ramp and our speed ramp together in one sequence. The next transition that we're going to be covering is an overlay transition, and I love using overlays for transitions because they are just so versatile, and there's a bajillion different overlays out there on the internet that you can go get, or you can create your own overlays and you can make them look totally different. There's no limit to what you can do with like combining overlays, and by the time you're finishing an edit, your overlays are going to make your edit look distinct, and it's going to kind of like be a reflection of your style. So we're going to use an overlay transition for this series of simple shots. We have a player going in, he makes the game-winning layup, and then we have the celebration shot. And we're going to use some overlays to spice that up. So I've got these two overlays here. I have this VHS transition, and honestly, I don't even remember where I got this from. I just kind of had it in my effects library, so we're going to use it. And I have this rainbow flicker overlay, which is actually one that I made, and it's just like a long series of, well, you can see it. It's like a rainbow flicker with some grainy noise to it. And this is part of actually a transition pack that I'm slowly working on. I'm trying to put together a whole bunch of different transitions for you guys. And this is going to be in there. There's a few different variations on this as well. And there's some other stuff that I'm working on throwing in. I'm hoping to get that done by Boxing Day. Fingers crossed. I don't know how busy my schedule is going to be, but stay tuned because soon I'm going to have a new transition pack coming out for you guys, and I can't wait to share that. But we're going to use this element from that future transition pack in this tutorial today. So let's actually start with the VHS transition. I kind of like how it looks. So we don't need this whole thing. It's over a second long. Maybe we just take this first bit right here. We'll just click O to set an out point, and then we'll drag the video only. I'll try to set this transition so it's over top of the middle of the two clips, and you can see here that this VHS transition layer is not filling up the entire frame. So we're just going to scale it up until it fills the frame. And now this clip has a black background. So if you want to blend something with a black background so that black goes away and is visible with the clips below it, you need to use an additive blending mode. So under the opacity tab here in the effects control panel, we can click that, and the additive blending modes are these ones: lighten screen, color dodge, linear dodge add, and lighten color. So we're going to go with linear dodge add. Now I recommend you usually use screen or linear dodge add, but experiment and see what looks good depending on your specific overlay. So click linear dodge add, and all of a sudden we have this VHS effect that bleeds through onto our clips. And just if I play this back now, I think it's going to look a lot better with that very simple change. That was probably a bit long for my liking. Let's shorten that up. Maybe let's make it a 10-frame transition. So we have 5 frames this way and 5 frames this way. By the way, if you want to skip 5 frames, hold shift in the left or right arrow while you're clicked on the timeline. It'll just jump 5 frames for you. Anyways, that was probably still a bit long. Let's shorten that up even more. Take 2 frames off each end. So this is a 6-frame transition. A little longer. Let's maybe H our magic number. I'm really finicking with it, and you should do this with your transitions as well. Like really get in there and like adjust frame by frame to make it look perfect in the way you want. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to call that good for a VHS transition. And we're not just going to leave it at this. It's kind of simple, and that's not really like much, you know what I mean? So we're going to also combine it with this rainbow flicker transition that we got going here. So again, this is like, I made this really long just so you can go and like pick the part of it that you want, or you have the option to speed it up or slow it down, depending on what you're looking for. So I'm just going to take like 1 second of this. I'll drag that onto the timeline, and we're actually going to speed this up so we get like a really fast color flicker effect. So click R, and that will give you the rate stretch tool, and then you're just going to stretch this back. And what the rate stretch tool does is speed up a clip or slow down a clip by either pulling it in or pulling it out respectively, instead of taking frames off of the clip. So if I were to just like click V and grab a clip, this is adding more frames and this is taking frames away. But if I grab the rate stretch tool and then I do the same action for a clip, this is making the clip slower, but not changing the number of frames in the clip. And this is making the clip faster, but not changing the number of frames in the clip. So it just makes things happen faster, and it's a quick way of speeding up your clips to get them to the exact length that you want. So we're just gonna speed this up a little, like that, and let's just cut the end off. And we haven't gone through and set the blending mode yet, so we're gonna do the same thing we did last time. We'll set this to linear dodge add. You know, I kind of like the idea of the VHS effect being over top. Yeah, that looks better. Not bad. I think the rainbow effect is a little harsh right now. Maybe if we reduce the opacity to like 50%, make it a little more subtle. So just like that, we combined two different overlays, made a couple tweaks to them, changed the blending modes, and we got a transition that's unique in that you can't just go download it from anywhere off of the internet. All right, now the next transition that we're going to cover is a pretty simple RGB glitch transition, but we got kind of a unique way to do it, and we're going to make it so it can be a preset that you can save to your own computer to use whenever you want. So we're actually going to make this one on an adjustment layer, and if you don't have an adjustment layer already made in your project, just come down to this little paper icon to make a new item, and click adjustment layer. It'll already show the aspect ratio of your composition, or sequence rather. So just click OK, and then the adjustment layer will populate here. We're going to grab this adjustment layer. We're going to drag it over top of the two clips that you have in your timeline. And for this transition, we're going to cut it down to be 10 frames long. So like I said, we're going to hold shift and the left arrow to go back 5 frames, and then drag this in. And we'll do the same on the other side. Now you have a 10 frame adjustment layer over top of these two clips. And the effect that we're going to use for this is called VR chromatic aberration. So come up to the effects panel here and write VR chromatic aberration, or as much of it as you need to get the effect to show up. And then we're going to drag that onto the clip right here. And you can see right away it has like this like glitchy effect. And right here in the effects control panel, you can see we have parameters to adjust this. So you can like make the red go crazy, you can make the whole thing more glitchy, you can make the whole thing less glitchy. But we're just going to keyframe this so that it starts as not being glitchy at all and then becomes like the look that it is right now. First, we already have this at the strength that we want it to be in the middle of the transition. So we're going to add keyframes on any of the aberration colors, which in this case is the red and the blue, that have a value other than 0 right now. So click this little stopwatch icon to add a keyframe. Then we're going to go to the other side and we're going to add keyframes again, clicking right here at this add or remove keyframe button in the effects control panel. And now we're going to go back to the start of our clip, and we're going to set the value for the blue aberration and for the red aberration to 0. And this is going to make the chromatic aberration completely go away. And we'll just drag this so that it's at the very end of the adjustment layer. This creates an effect where you have no chromatic aberration, and then slowly the chromatic aberration appears as you get closer to the middle of the clip and it holds on. Now we want this chromatic aberration to fade off as well, so we're going to highlight both of these keyframes. We'll click Command C to copy them, and we're going to copy those two keyframes that have a value of 0 to the end here, just like that, by clicking in the effects control panel. And now you can drag these to the end of your adjustment layer, and you'll have this kind of fade off effect with the chromatic aberration as well. And when we play that through, then you just get this little chroma glitch, and the clip goes from one to the next. Obviously, if you want, you can turn these values up to make them a little bit more drastic. So let's say we want to go like -20 and 20, and we wanted this fall off distance to be 75. Now this glitch is a lot more substantial, and you can see that in the transition. But when you eventually get these to how you want, you can come and click all of the effects that you use to make this transition in the effects control panel, which in this case is just the VR chromatic aberration effect. And we're going to right click and click Save Preset, and you can call this VR chromatic aberration transition. And it's like a 10 frame transition, so it's very 10 frames. And now you can choose if you want to anchor this to the in point, anchor this to the out point, or scale, which basically means, do you want this transition to always be the same length starting from the start of the adjustment layer? Do you always want this transition to be the same length with the last point at the end of the adjustment layer? Or do you want this transition to scale relative to how long or short your adjustment layer is? I like to pick scale, and then no matter how long or short I make my adjustment layer, I can just place this effect on and the transition will be longer or shorter accordingly. So we're just gonna keep this at scale, and then we'll click OK. And now if you make like another adjustment layer, let's just delete this off of here. I can come here and write VR chromatic aberration transition. You see I can have my preset that we just made right there. And then I drag this on, and the transition is already done. So I've made it once, and now I can use it across my videos however I want. And this is a theme that we're going to be using in the next transition as well, so stay tuned for that. So our next transition is going to be an earthquake transition, and we're going to use the same adjustment layer method that we used for the last one. So let's grab our adjustment layer, we'll bring it back on, and we're going to make this adjustment layer 10 frames. So like we did last time, shift and left arrow to identify 5 frames. and then do shift and right arrow twice to skip 10 frames forward. And we have our adjustment layer. And the effect that we're gonna use for this is the transform effect. So let's type transform into here, and we'll grab transform, drag it onto our clip, and we're going to manipulate this to get the effect that we want. We want this like earthquake effect to basically shake the screen and make things really blurry and distorted as we go from one clip to the next. So we're gonna uncheck this use composition shutter angle and then turn the shutter angle up really high. Shutter angle is basically like shutter speed, but for video cameras. And without getting into too much detail, the highest shutter angle you can have is 360 degrees. And the higher the shutter angle, like the larger the number, the blurrier movement within the camera is going to be. So in this case, the blurrier movement between one keyframe and the next keyframe is going to be. So we're not going to turn this all the way to 360 because it's kind of excessive and like too blurry. But we can turn the shutter angle up to like 260. It's more, you don't need to be precise with it, but we're just going to put this at 260 just so we have a blurrier than what your eye would perceive image as we go from keyframe to keyframe. So now we're going to go to the start of the adjustment layer here, and we're going to add keyframes for scale and position at their default values. And we're going to copy these, and then we're going to paste them and drag them to the very end of our adjustment layer because we want this transition to start and end with the clip scaled properly and positioned properly. But now in between, we're going to start adjusting the scale and position so this clip kind of shakes around as it's playing through. So you can just kind of start liberally making adjustments to position and scale. You want to make sure that there's like a fair difference between the position and the scale at each frame. You can see I'm just like making it bigger, making it smaller. There's no like real art to this. You can kind of make it look how you like. I'm gonna speed this up by just grabbing a couple keyframes in here and copying them and then pasting them, and we're done. And just like that, when I play this clip back, we're gonna get a shake between one clip and the next, and it's gonna give us a transition. So in my opinion, that was a little intense right there. That's a really big jump. So let's dial that back a little. Maybe we bring this over a bit. Let's scale it up. There we go, let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's better in my opinion. And if we want to apply the same transition to this next clip here, we just have to click on this adjustment layer, hold Option and drag, and then you get your adjustment layer over top of the next clip as an exact duplicate. And when we play all three through, you'll see that this earthquake effect is now applied to both clips. And you can save it the same way that we saved that last preset for the VR chromatic aberration. Alright, so that was 5 video transitions in Adobe Premiere Pro that I love to use in my sports videos. If you like the video, then please make sure to subscribe to my channel because I post videography and video editing tips and tutorial videos similar to this one on a regular basis, and I would love to have you around for that. And if you have any questions about any of the tutorials that we covered here, please feel free to leave me a note in the comments. I would love to get back with you down there and have a discussion. Anyways, that is going to be all for this video, so until next time, peace.